Good morning, champions of destiny. Every new sunrise is not just another day, it is a divine invitation. When you open your eyes in the morning, heaven has already written a fresh page of purpose with your name on it. But the question is, who will lead your day? You see, many people wake up and rush into life without consulting the author of the day himself. They let pressure lead them instead of prayer. But true success begins when you pause before you pursue, when you kneel before you conquer. Morning prayer is not a religious routine, it's a spiritual strategy. It is the moment when you hand the steering wheel of your day to God and say, Father, I trust you to drive. Because when God leads, confusion ends and clarity begins. So today I challenge you, wake up, end the night of worry, begin the day of divine direction. Let God lead your day. Every morning carries within it the seed of a new beginning. When you open your eyes, you are not just waking up from asleep, you are waking into purpose. The morning is the most sacred and strategic moment of your day because it represents the intersection between rest and responsibility, between night and light, between what was and what can be. The way you begin determines what you become throughout the day. The morning is not given to you to rush through, but to be received as a divine appointment. It is heaven's whisper saying, start again, but start with me. You must understand that the first thing you do in the morning is not just a habit, it is a declaration of priority. It reveals who truly governs your life. When you rise and run to your phone, to messages, to the world's noise, you are saying, world, lead me. But when you rise and bow in silence, lifting your heart to God, you are saying, Lord, this day belongs to you. Every day has a purpose, but only prayer can reveal it. Morning prayer aligns your spirit with divine intention. It calibrates your heart to heaven's seat, frequency, so that you don't miss what God has already prepared. The morning is a time when the universe is quiet, the air is still, and your mind is clear enough to hear the whispers of God. It is not just about asking Him for things, it's about aligning yourself with His order. When you begin your day in prayer, you enter into partnership with divine purpose. You are acknowledging that the one who created time deserves to direct how it is used. The first few minutes of your morning are sacred real estate. Never allow the enemy to rent that space with distraction, doubt, or digital noise. Protect it like treasure. For in that sacred stillness, vision is renewed, strength is restored, and wisdom begins to flow. The greatest leaders of destiny are those who have learned the secret of early surrender. Before they conquer the day, they conquer themselves in the presence of God. The morning is not just the beginning of hours, it is the birthing place of power. When the light breaks through the horizon, it symbolizes the triumph of revelation over darkness. Every sunrise is a sermon without words. It declares that no matter how long the night, light will always prevail. And just as the earth rotates toward the sun, your soul must rotate toward the Sun of Righteousness to receive the warmth of His presence and the clarity of His light. You can never walk in the fullness of your potential if you begin your day in spiritual darkness. The reason many people feel lost, confused, and overwhelmed is not because God has not spoken, but because they have not taken time to listen. Morning prayer is the act of turning your face toward heaven and saying, Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. The morning is the time when destiny decisions are made silently. It is in those first few moments of awareness that you choose your master for the day. Will it be peace or panic, faith or fear, discipline or distraction? The decision is not made consciously, it is made and spiritually. If you choose not to pray, you have already chosen to walk alone. And when you walk alone, you are limited by human understanding. But when you pray, you walk with divine direction. You are guided by wisdom that transcends circumstance. Prayer is not a ritual, it is relationship. It is not about words, it is about alignment. It is the moment when your will bows to His will, when your plans yield to His purpose, when your thoughts synchronize with His thoughts. There is a law of beginnings in life. Whatever governs your beginning will govern your outcome. If confusion rules your morning, chaos will dominate your day. If peace rules your morning, purpose will guide your steps. The morning is the spiritual control room of the day. If you win there, you win everywhere. That is why the enemy fights your morning so fiercely. He distracts you with fatigue, with delay, with trivial routines, because he knows that a man or woman who commands the morning through prayer will command the entire day through authority. The morning is your opportunity to sit with the King before you deal with the crowd, to receive orders before facing opposition, to get centered before getting busy. When you rise in prayer, you are not just speaking into the air, you are legislating your day in the courts of heaven. You are decreeing peace over confusion, clarity over chaos, strength over struggle. Heaven responds to the voice of faith, and the morning hour is when faith speaks the loudest. It is the hour of creation. Just as God spoke light into darkness at the beginning, you too must speak light into your atmosphere. You don't wait for the day to define you. You define the day by declaring the word of God over it. The atmosphere of your day obeys the voice of authority that comes from a submitted spirit. When your words are backed by divine alignment, they carry weight in the unseen realm. The morning becomes a prophetic platform from which you release destiny into motion. The morning is a teacher of rhythm and rest. It teaches that every day begins with light breaking through darkness, reminding us that progress begins when we let illumination enter our confusion. It shows us that God's mercies are new every morning, meaning every dawn is a reset of grace. No matter what yesterday looked like, morning says you have another chance. But that chance is only fruitful when it is rooted in prayer. Morning prayer transforms ordinary time into sacred opportunity. It shifts your perspective from survival to significance. It gives you the ability to interpret life not by what you see, but by what God has spoken. When you pray, you stop reacting and start responding with divine intelligence. The morning is the time of divine download. Heaven is generous at dawn. It releases instructions, insights, and inspiration to those who are awake and attentive. Many inventions, revelations, and solutions are born in the quiet hours of early communion. When you pray, you don't just ask God for your needs. You receive His mind for your mission. You begin to see the invisible and think beyond limitation. The early morning is where ideas are born, dreams are revived, and vision becomes visible. Prayer sharpens your discernment so you can distinguish between good opportunities and divine assignments. Not everything good is from God. The morning moment gives you the wisdom to know the difference. The morning is also the battlefield of focus. The enemy understands that if he can clutter your morning, he can control your momentum. That's why spiritual discipline is vital. You must learn to wake up with intentionality, not just alarm. Set your mind on things above before you set your hand to things below. Train your spirit to seek first the kingdom before you seek your calendar. It is a matter of spiritual law. Whatever you seek first will govern the rest. Seek God first and everything else finds its order. Seek the world first and everything else falls into disorder. The secret to a fruitful day is a faithful morning. The morning is where the champion in you awakens. It is where the soldier in your spirit reports for duty. It is where your heart says, not my will, but yours be done. That single act of surrender releases peace that carries you through pressure. It is impossible to lose your balance in the storm when you begin your day standing on the rock. Morning prayer makes you unshakable because it roots you in eternal perspective. The world may change, circumstances may shift, but your anchor remains steady. You become a person of stability in a culture of chaos. You move from reaction to revelation, from confusion to conviction, from fear to faith. The morning becomes your secret place of power, the well from which you draw strength to lead, love, and live with purpose. Prayer is the master key that unlocks divine leadership in human life. True leadership does not begin with authority. It begins with submission. It does not begin with charisma. It begins with connection. Prayer is the connection point between divine vision and human action. It is where heaven downloads instruction into the spirit of a person chosen to lead. Every great leader is first a great listener, and the language of leadership is learned in the secret place of prayer. Leadership is not a title, it is the responsibility to influence according to divine design, and influence without prayer becomes manipulation. Prayer refines motives, corrects vision, and positions the heart to serve from divine purpose rather than personal ambition. Without prayer, leadership is guesswork. With prayer, it becomes guidance. Prayer is the master key because it gives you access to the mind of God. You can never lead effectively if you are thinking only from your level. The greatest leaders are those who learn to think from above. When you pray, you ascend in understanding. You begin to see people, problems, and possibilities from heaven's perspective. The human mind plans, but the divine mind prepares. Through prayer, you shift from planning by logic to preparing by revelation. Prayer makes the invisible visible to your spirit. It allows you to see before others see, to hear before others hear, to move before others move. Leadership is not about being ahead in time, it's about being aligned in spirit. Prayer keeps you aligned. When you pray, you submit your will to a higher order. You declare that leadership is not about control, but about stewardship. A true leader leads not because they are powerful, but because they are positioned. They stand under the authority of heaven and become a channel for its wisdom on earth. Prayer is that posture of positioning. It keeps pride out and purpose in. It reminds the leader that no matter how great the vision, it is God who gives the breath to fulfill it. Many people lose their leadership influence because they stop consulting the source. They get busy doing the work of God without staying connected to the God of the work. Prayer keeps you connected to the source of wisdom, strength, and direction. It is not an event you attend, but an atmosphere you live in. Leadership without prayer becomes dangerous because it replaces divine guidance with human ambition. The leader begins to move by impulse rather than inspiration, by emotion rather than revelation. That is why many leaders burn out. They are trying to carry what only God can sustain. Prayer transfers the weight from your shoulders to His. It is the secret of endurance. In prayer, you don't just find answers, you find peace. You learn to trust the process even when you don't understand the plan. The greatest leaders are not those who have all the answers, but those who know where to get them. Every time you pray, you enter the throne room of wisdom where solutions are already waiting. Prayer is the leader's laboratory, where vision is refined, strategy is birthed, and timing is revealed. Prayer trains the leader's spirit to hear the still, small voice that directs great destinies. Leadership is a journey of decisions, and every decision carries consequences. Without prayer, you make decisions out of pressure. With prayer, you make them out of peace. Prayer slows you down enough to hear eternity speak into your temporary situation. It allows you to distinguish between the urgent and the important, between opportunities and assignments. The enemy of great leadership is distraction, but prayer focuses your attention on what truly matters. It centers your soul on the will of God and protects you from being driven by the applause of people. A leader who prays becomes unshakable because they are led by conviction, not opinion. The purpose of leadership is not to lead people to yourself, but to lead them to their purpose. And only a person who spends time in the presence of God can see people the way God sees them. Prayer gives you divine perception. You begin to see potential where others see problems. You begin to call out greatness where others see weakness. You begin to lead from love rather than from fear. Leadership without prayer becomes positional, but leadership with prayer becomes transformational. It transforms both the leader and the led. When you pray, you bring the fragrance of heaven into your environment. You lead not by domination, but by demonstration. Your life becomes the sermon that others read. Every great movement of God in history began with a man or woman who prayed. Before great awakenings came great waiting. Before public victory came private surrender. Prayer precedes power. It is the womb of revival and the engine of transformation. When a leader prays, nations shift. When a leader kneels, kingdoms align. When a leader listens, heaven speaks. The strength of your leadership is not measured by how many follow you, but by how faithfully you follow God. Prayer ensures that leadership remains divine partnership rather than human performance. It is the act of saying, Lord, I cannot lead without you. That humility becomes the foundation of supernatural influence. Prayer does not just change circumstances, it changes the leader. It purifies motives, breaks pride, and produces wisdom. In prayer, you meet yourself before God and realize that leadership is not about being great, but about being available. It is about carrying the heart of a servant in the position of a shepherd. The leader who prays becomes sensitive to the needs of those they lead. They learn to discern pain behind performance, confusion behind confidence. Prayer gives spiritual insight that no leadership manual can teach. It trains your heart to lead with compassion while maintaining conviction. It allows you to be firm without being harsh, visionary without being arrogant, strong without being proud. The leader who prays never loses direction because prayer is a compass in confusion. When storms come, prayer becomes the anchor that holds your soul. It reminds you that leadership is not about knowing the way, but about trusting the one who is the way. Every time you pray, you invite divine navigation into human direction. You move from being reactive to being prophetic. You begin to anticipate what others can only analyze. You start leading from revelation instead of reaction. That is why prayerless leadership may look busy but remains barren. Productivity without presence is emptiness disguised as success. Only prayer can turn motion into meaning. Prayer gives the leader access to supernatural strength. Leadership is demanding, and the weight of responsibility can crush an unprepared heart. But prayer builds inner resilience. It renews strength like an eagle's. When the leader prays, they rise above fatigue, above fear, above failure. They draw from a source that never runs dry. That is why leaders who pray do not quit easily. They may be tired, but never empty. They may face opposition, but never collapse under pressure. They know how to retreat into the presence of God and return with renewed power. The secret to endurance in leadership is consistent communion. The leader who prays is never alone, never lost, never hopeless, because prayer keeps the line open between heaven and earth. Leadership requires wisdom, and wisdom is born in prayer. There are levels of understanding that intellect cannot reach, levels of insight that experience cannot teach. These are reserved for those who seek God in the secret place. Prayer opens the leader's spirit to divine strategy. It reveals when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to be silent, when to build and when to rest. Without prayer, you might have the right vision at the wrong time, but prayer synchronizes you with divine timing. It ensures that you don't run ahead of grace or fall behind destiny. It gives you the rhythm of heaven, the sense of divine timing that makes leadership effortless and effective. Prayer is the atmosphere where leadership maturity develops. The more you pray, the more your confidence shifts from self to source. You begin to lead not from ego but from essence, not from personality but from principle. You learn to rely less on charisma and more on character. You realize that leadership is not about being needed but about being faithful. Prayer teaches dependence on God in a way that frees you from the pressure of performance. It is where the leader learns that results are not the goal, obedience is. Prayer keeps your heart soft and your spirit strong. It keeps you humble enough to learn and bold enough to lead. The true secret of great leadership lies not in your ability to manage people, but in your ability to hear God. Prayer is that hearing place. It is where divine ideas are conceived and divine instructions are delivered. Every morning, every decision, every challenge becomes an opportunity to listen before leading. A praying leader leads with clarity because confusion cannot live in the presence of God. A praying leader leads with authority because submission produces power. A praying leader leads with peace because they have already cast their cares before stepping into the day. Prayer is not preparation for leadership. Prayer is leadership in action. Divine order is the foundation of every success story. Life appears chaotic to many because they have chosen to operate outside the rhythm of God. The world functions by chance, but heaven functions by design. When you learn to align yourself with divine order, you tap into a system that produces results with precision and consistency. Success is not random, it is relational. It is a product of aligning your life with the principles of God. The same way a clock cannot function without the precise arrangement of its parts, your life cannot function at maximum potential without divine order. Order precedes progress. Structure precedes achievement. Discipline precedes destiny. When you wake up each morning and allow God to lead your day, you are stepping into a natural law of success that governs every sphere of creation. The earth itself rotates in perfect order. The sun rises and sets in perfect timing. Seasons change according to a divine schedule. And yet human beings often ignore the order of their own lives, rushing blindly into tasks, decisions, and commitments without consulting the Creator. The lack of order produces confusion, frustration, and repeated failure. People wonder why their efforts do not yield results, even though they are working tirelessly. The problem is not the effort, the problem is misalignment. Without divine order, hard work produces fatigue, ambition produces anxiety, and planning produces disappointment. Order is the invisible architecture that supports visible success. Everything that is great was first designed, organized, and aligned before it manifested. The same is true for your day. If you allow chaos to dictate your morning, chaos will dictate your outcome. If you begin your day with prayer, reflection, and alignment with God's plan, you set a standard for every hour to follow. Every appointment, every decision, every relationship becomes subject to divine synchronization. This is why people who rise early in prayer and submission often accomplish more before others wake than the rest of the world accomplishes all day. Divine order is not just about scheduling or discipline. It is about understanding the natural law of God that governs every creation. The human body functions because of order. The seasons function because of order. The mind functions because of order. Even the spiritual realm operates with perfect order. Angels carry out instructions with precision, and every movement of heaven is calculated to produce result. When you submit to this divine order, your life begins to move in alignment with the universe itself. Disorder produces friction, delay, and chaos. Order produces flow, efficiency, and clarity. Your day becomes a channel through which divine potential can flow freely without obstruction. It is why planning alone without prayer produces frustration, but prayerful planning produces fulfillment. To experience success in your day, you must first prioritize everything in life has a place, and every place has a priority. Divine order teaches that not all things are of equal importance. Learning to recognize what is first, second, and third is a spiritual skill that can only be developed through communion with God. The morning hour is the key to setting this order. What you allow to control the first hour will control the rest of the day. If distraction controls it, confusion controls it. If prayer controls it, clarity controls it. Leadership begins with order. The leader who rises and orders his or her day according to divine instruction positions themselves to lead every moment with wisdom, efficiency, and grace. The principle is simple. Alignment precedes assignment. If you are aligned with God, your assignments align with success. If you are misaligned, no amount of effort will bring you the desired results. Divine order also produces consistency. Success is not a one-time event, it is the sum of consistent effort aligned with principle. When your life operates in order, you develop habits that reinforce your purpose. Habits are the building blocks of character and achievement, and character is the vehicle through which success travels. Chaos produces erratic results, while order produces reliable outcomes. Every great civilization, organization, and movement in history was built on the principle of order. Great leaders, great nations, and great businesses understood that success is not a matter of luck but of design. The same principle applies to the individual. If you want to live a successful life, you must operate in divine order. Divine order is also relational. Success in life is not just about personal gain, it is about relationships and stewardship. When your life is in order, your interactions with others are also ordered. You treat people according to their place and position, not according to impulse or emotion. Your family, your team, your community all benefit from your alignment. Confusion breeds conflict, but order breeds harmony. When you allow God to set the order of your day, you also allow Him to order your relationships. You become a channel of peace, stability, and purpose to everyone around you. Leadership is a relational principle, and relational success cannot exist without order. Every action in life must follow a sequence to produce the desired outcome. The farmer does not plant after harvest, the builder does not roof before laying the foundation, the musician does not play a symphony without learning the notes. Divine order is the sequence of success. You cannot skip steps and expect the same results. Skipping prayer, reflection, and preparation produces wasted effort. Following God's order ensures that every step you take is productive. It transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Order also produces timing. Timing is everything in success. Doing the right thing at the wrong time is still failure, but doing the right thing at the right time is victory. Prayer and divine alignment give you access to perfect timing. You move not by chance, but by destiny. Divine order also creates space for supernatural intervention. When your life is structured and aligned with God's will, opportunities appear, obstacles are removed, and resources are provided in ways that are beyond natural explanation. Heaven responds to order. The universe works to support the life that operates according to principle. Chaos resists, but order attracts. When you begin your day by letting God lead, you create an atmosphere where miracles are possible. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the expected becomes exceeded. This is why so many people struggle. They work hard, but without divine order, they are met with frustration. They are like a boat drifting without a rudder. Prayer and alignment are the rudder that guides the vessel of your life towards success. Order also produces clarity of mind. When your day is in disarray, your thinking is confused. Decisions become difficult, priorities become unclear, and stress dominates your energy. But when you operate in divine order, your mind functions clearly. You understand what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Every task, every responsibility, every moment fits into its proper place. Success is easier when your vision is clear and your steps are deliberate. The morning is the key to this clarity. The first moments of your day are the most important because they set the tone for all that follows. Aligning yourself with God in those first moments produces clarity, order, and ultimately success. Divine order is not just practical, it is spiritual. It is the expression of God's will in your life. Chaos is the enemy of progress because it represents deviation from divine plan. When you pray and align with God's order, You are participating in a heavenly system designed to produce fruitfulness. Every moment, every decision, every interaction has its proper place. When you understand this principle, your life begins to move with precision. Success is no longer random, it is predictable. You begin to see the patterns of providence, and you are able to operate within them rather than against them. The discipline to follow order becomes a lifestyle, and the results become inevitable. The principle of divine order also protects you from unnecessary hardship. Many struggles in life are caused by disorganization, impulsiveness, and neglect of spiritual alignment. When your life is ordered according to God's law, you minimize unnecessary conflict, wasted effort, and emotional turmoil. You create a framework for success that allows growth, productivity, and peace to flourish. Daily alignment with God through prayer ensures that your priorities are correct, your actions are productive, and your focus is on what truly matters. Order transforms potential into performance, vision into reality, and ambition into achievement. Divine order produces momentum. Life moves faster and more efficiently when everything is in its proper place. Effort that is aligned with principle produces multiple returns, while effort that is misaligned produces minimal results. When you start your day by letting God lead, you harness momentum before the day even begins. You operate from position, not from pressure. Your energy is channeled, your vision is focused, and your steps are directed. Momentum makes challenges easier to overcome, opportunities easier to recognize, and goals easier to achieve. It is the power of alignment. Every successful person operates according to principle. Chaos produces temporary advantage, but order produces sustainable success. Order creates confidence because you know what to expect. It produces reliability because your steps are predictable in principle. It produces authority because those who lead in order command respect naturally. The morning is the time to establish this order, the time to set the framework, the time to allow God to lead every aspect of your day. In doing so, you are not just managing hours, you are managing destiny. Success is no longer a matter of luck, but of obedience, alignment, and principle. Letting God lead your day is the ultimate secret to experiencing peace in a world filled with chaos. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of divine order in your heart and mind. Many people chase peace by trying to control circumstances, by trying to manipulate outcomes, or by trying to manage the uncontrollable. They seek serenity through human effort, and that pursuit always fails because the world is unpredictable and life is full of challenges. True peace is only found when you submit your will to a higher authority, when you allow God to take the helm and guide your steps. Letting God lead is not a passive act, it is an intentional surrender, a conscious decision to trust a wisdom greater than your own understanding. When God is in control, confusion gives way to clarity, anxiety gives way to calm, and fear gives way to faith. When you rise in the morning and place your day into God's hands, you are not just praying, you are declaring trust in the one who holds eternity in his mind and time in his hands. You are acknowledging that your finite understanding cannot comprehend the full scope of what lies ahead, but that his infinite wisdom can direct every step. This surrender produces peace because it shifts responsibility from your shoulders to his. You stop trying to fight battles that are not yours to fight and start walking in alignment with the plan that is already designed for your life. The world may try to dictate urgency, pressure, and panic, but when God leads, your heart operates on his timetable, and that timing is always perfect. Letting God lead transforms the way you make decisions. Without his guidance, decision-making becomes stressful, confusing, and often wrong. Every choice carries consequences, and when you attempt to navigate life solely by human logic, you expose yourself to error. But when you invite God's direction, decisions are made with wisdom and discernment. You gain insight that goes beyond mere information and knowledge. You begin to see possibilities where others see problems, solutions where others see obstacles, and opportunities where others see dead ends. Peace arises not because the challenges disappear, but because the presence of God provides clarity, confidence, and direction. Letting God lead also releases the burden of worry. Worry is the enemy of peace because it arises from trying to control outcomes you cannot control. When you relinquish control and allow God to lead, you remove the weight of anxiety. You walk with the assurance that the one who created the heavens and the earth is orchestrating the events of your life. The storms may come, the traffic may frustrate you, the deadlines may loom, and the pressures may increase, but inner peace remains because you are walking under night. divine supervision. The river of God's peace flows through the heart of the one who surrenders, and that flow cannot be blocked by circumstance, disappointment, or opposition. Letting God lead your day also aligns your priorities with what truly matters. Many people experience inner turmoil because they focus on the urgent rather than the important, the temporary rather than the eternal. They are driven by deadlines, trends, and human expectations. But when God leads, priorities are clarified. You begin to invest your energy, time, and resources into what has eternal value. You no longer sweat over insignificant matters or become anxious about things that are out of your control. Divine leadership teaches discernment, showing you where to act, where to wait, and where to let go. Peace is the natural result of knowing that you are walking according to purpose rather than trying to chase success on your own terms. Letting God lead cultivates trust, and trust produces peace. Many people are restless because they doubt the future, they doubt their abilities, or they doubt the presence of God in their circumstances. But submission to divine leadership is an act of trust that affirms, I may not understand, but I believe the one who does. Trust removes fear because it replaces uncertainty with confidence in God's faithfulness. You no longer carry the burden of trying to manipulate events, persuade people, or force outcomes. Instead, you rest in the assurance that everything that belongs to you by divine plan will come in its perfect time, and everything that does not is not meant for you. The heart that trusts is a heart at peace. Letting God lead also changes your perspective on challenges. Life will always have trials, setbacks, and disappointments, but when God is in control, challenges are no longer sources of panic but opportunities for growth. Peace does not mean absence of difficulty, it means presence of divine guidance in the midst of difficulty. When God leads, problems are processed with wisdom, conflicts are approached with patience, and setbacks are understood in the context of a larger plan. The leader who allows God to lead sees obstacles as teachers, delays as protectors, and interruptions as divine appointments. Peace is the natural outcome of seeing life from God's perspective, rather than being driven by human perception. Letting God lead also impacts your relationships. Many people experience conflict, tension, and misunderstanding because they attempt to control others or insist on their own way. But when you submit to God's leadership, your interactions are tempered with patience, love, and discernment. You respond rather than react, you forgive rather than retaliate, and you communicate with clarity rather than confusion. Peace is multiplied in your life because relational harmony grows when your own heart is aligned with divine guidance. You begin to influence others not through force but through the calm authority of a surrendered spirit. Letting God lead your day requires daily commitment and intentionality. It begins each morning with prayer, reflection, and alignment. It continues throughout the day by seeking guidance in decisions, maintaining integrity in actions, and responding with faith rather than fear. It is a continuous partnership in which you recognize that your efforts alone are insufficient and that the direction of the Creator produces the most fruitful results. Peace is not found in perfection or control, but in consistent reliance on God's leadership. When He leads, even uncertainty becomes manageable, and even complexity becomes navigable. Letting God lead transforms your inner life, creating a foundation for lasting peace. It reshapes your mindset from fear to faith, your focus from distraction to direction, and your heart from tension to tranquility. You no longer chase temporary solutions or try to manipulate situations to feel secure. Instead, you walk with confidence, knowing that every step is ordered and every outcome is guided. Peace becomes your companion, resilience becomes your posture, and hope becomes your perspective. The Spirit of God leads, and the soul rests. Letting God lead also ensures that your life reflects purpose. When you try to lead yourself, your energy is divided, your focus is fragmented, and your impact is limited. But when you invite God to guide your steps, you align with a greater plan, you walk in rhythm with eternity, and you accomplish what you were created to do. Peace emerges naturally because your life operates within the boundaries of divine wisdom rather than human impulse. Every choice, every action, and every thought is filtered through heavenly insight. The result is a life that flows smoothly even amid challenges, a life that demonstrates stability in a world of chaos, and a life that radiates confidence, hope, and assurance. Letting God lead is the secret to unshakable peace because it places the ultimate authority where it belongs. You no longer rely on your understanding, your strength, or your strategies alone. Instead, you operate in alignment with the Creator of heaven and earth, trusting that He sees the end from the beginning knows the path before you take it, and directs the steps of those who submit. Peace becomes not just a fleeting feeling, but a permanent atmosphere in your soul. It is not dependent on circumstances, opinions, or outcomes. It is a natural byproduct of walking in obedience and surrender. The heart that lets God lead is free from worry, free from fear, free from inner turmoil. It walks calmly